Welcome to the CAA and One. I'm Amanda Poole, joined by CAA women's basketball insider Monika Moore. Monika, we've got another week of some top headlines in the league to discuss. Let's start with the unbeaten in conference play. It is Charleston 4-0. They stay unbeaten despite its closest game yet this season against William and Mary, extending their 5-game win streak with a 62-60 win over the Tribe and an 88-75 win over Hampton. Now, in that William and Mary game, there were 16 lead changes. It came down to defense. The Cougars got 2 stops in the final 10 seconds, including a huge block from Grace Isabula, with the Barbo sisters combining for 27 points. It was Isabula's paint presence and 17 rebounds that got the job done, Monika.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that stands out for Charleston is they are showing yet again that they can close out a big game on the road in the fourth quarter. This took me back to the Florida State game where we saw Charleston do something very similar. And I think when you look at league play, when you look towards the postseason, that ability to come up big in those close games, in tough environments, that's huge for Charleston. The other thing that really stood out for me was the offensive rebounding. Getting those second chance opportunities is huge. And Charleston leads the league with 16.9 offensive rebounds per game. They also lead the league in rebounding margin. And you mentioned Grace Isabula. I think what stands out to me is that rebounding presence. She leads the league with 11.7 per game. But what you have to understand is that she is fifth in the country in Division I women's college basketball right now on the glass. I love what we're seeing out of her. I am very excited about the way they're playing right now.
And moving on to Campbell, the Fighting Camels, hashtag roll humps. If you know, you know. Campbell 3-1, going 2-0 on the weekend with some tight games, some wins over Elon and William and Mary. Now, in that Elon game, Campbell dug out of an 8-point second half deficit, then closed the game on a 13-1 run to win 62-52. The 5-time reigning rookie of the week, Jasmine Navarre, led with a career high 24 points, 12 of which came in the fourth quarter. And Sunday, it was a defensive effort, helping the Camels close out the 45-43 win over the Tribe. Monika, what did you learn about Campbell this weekend?
It was all about the defense. I thought the defense was on fire. You look at the William and Mary game, the Tribe have shot 39% on the season. Campbell held them to 25.4% shooting. They held them scoreless in the last 3 minutes and 18 seconds of the game. And they did something similar against Elon. They held the Phoenix scoreless for over the last 5 minutes of the game. They forced 5 critical turnovers. When you're playing defense like that, it is huge. And you couple that with the balance that they have. We've talked a lot about Jasmine Navarre. We've talked about Jasmine Felton, but you have Sierra Alexander, you have Gigi Boone, you have Olivia Tucker. Against William and Mary, they had 5 players who had over 7 points. Against Elon, they had 4 players with over 7 points. So I think for Campbell, they're combining good offensive balance with tenacious defensive pressure, and they're doing a great job getting big W's.
Looking at Northeastern, the Huskies going to war last weekend, battled in double overtime in a loss against North Carolina A&T, and then took down Monmouth, snapping the Hawks' 8-game win streak. And the Huskies took all the positives from that Friday night loss and poured it into Sunday for their first CAA win of the season. Now, against Monmouth, Northeastern was leading 23-6 in the second quarter, but it was a 1-point game in the fourth. The Huskies closing it out with CAA Player of the Week, Cameron Collins, 19-point performance. Collins, the first Husky to claim that title since 2023.
Yeah, I think for Northeastern, I know that Priscilla Edwards-Lloyd probably talked a lot with her team about how you have to defend home court, how these were big games because they're at home. You want to get wins. They came out ready to play. It was a tough loss to North Carolina A&T, but then you see what they did against Monmouth. And one thing that stood out to me in both of those contests is they shot the basketball very well. They shot almost 45% from the floor against North Carolina A&T. They shot 50% from the floor against Monmouth. And you mentioned Cameron Collins, and I thought she had an outstanding week. But it wasn't just Cameron Collins. Everyone was stepping up for the Huskies this week. I love what we saw out of Justice Tramble. I love what we saw out of Taylor Holohan. Now, interestingly, they have a test against Campbell on Friday at home. It's going to be that Campbell defense, the Northeastern offense. I think that's one everyone wants to tune into.
Yeah, the first couple weeks of CAA play has not disappointed. It's been very entertaining. A couple overtime, double overtime. We've had some free basketball the past couple weeks. It's been great. But looking ahead at some of these matchups this weekend, we go into our game changer segment where Monica and I, we look at three different matchups. We both pick a game changer, a difference maker that we think is going to cause some chaos this weekend. Starting with a matchup, Monmouth at Towson. Monmouth 3-1, Towson 3-0 in conference play. The Hawks defense is really good this season so far. So Towson's going to need to hit some tough shots, and that can come from Tilda Shukvis, a senior Missouri transfer coming off her best performance in CAA play, shooting 4 of 8 from the perimeter. She's second in the conference in three-point percentage and top 5 in assist-to-turnover ratio. 2 skills necessary for a win over Monmouth. Monica, who are you looking at this weekend?
You know, I picked a player from Monmouth, and I've been impressed with Davine DeBulla all season long. She leads the team in scoring. She leads the team in rebounding. She leads the team in blocked shots. And I think that her presence coming off the double-double against UNCW, she was in double figures against Northeastern. I think it's going to be huge for the Hawks.
And looking at the next matchup, Drexel at Charleston. Drexel 1-2 on the season. Charleston, we talked about it, unbeaten 4-0. This is the flow game of the week. Monica, who can be the difference maker?
We have already talked about her, but I have to go with Grace Isabella, and this is the reason why. I think that the rebounding could be the key statistic in that game. Charleston has about a +6 rebounding margin in conference play over Drexel right now. So my eye is on the rebounding numbers, and we've already told you what Grace Isabella can do on the glass.
And someone who's going to try to stop her, in my opinion, is Drexel's Deja Evans. They're going to need to battle it out in the paint. She cooked last week, putting up back-to-back 20-point performances. The Dragons will need her size and physicality under the basket tonight. And our last matchup to talk about is Northeastern at Hofstra. Both teams sit 1-3 in CAA play. This matchup on Sunday. Monica, who are you looking for?
We've already talked about her too. It's Cameron Collins, our player of the week. She put up really good numbers this week. What really stands out to me is efficiency. She shot 57% from the floor and 67% from three-point range this week. It's not just about scoring, it's about offensive efficiency.
Yeah, I'm looking at Hofstra's Neve Brown. Welcome to the party, Miss Brown. The UCF grad transfer didn't play in the first 11 games of the season, but has become the Pride's leading scorer in their last 4 games. Put up a season high 17 points against Towson in that battle of a game last Friday. She can be a game changer when she is on the court. So looking forward to a lot of these exciting matchups this weekend. I'll be glued to my TV screen. But that's all for us. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you guys follow CAA Basketball on Twitter and catch all the action live on Flow College. For Monika Moore, I'm Amanda Poole. Thank you so much for joining.